We're moving on to Paul. If you're still okay.
Yes. Good to go.
Awesome.
Right.
Paul.
Right. Are you seeing this?
Yeah.
Are you hearing me?
Huh?
Are you hearing me?
Yeah. Some nice rosettes there in shot that I just saw.
So, in much the same way as Lee was banished from his kitchen, when we had a new kitchen a few years back, I was banished from the kitchen, have no garage, no outbuilding, so I had to come upstairs into the loft. And this is just to prove I am in the loft. So I did a bit of conversion work, put some water and some drainage up here, a sink, which you'll see in a minute, and it's quite a nice little space. So give you a bit of a walk round. My beer storage has been here for a while. I'm about to move it all downstairs because both my daughters have moved away, so I've got some storage space in the bedroom now, but not ideal because it gets very warm up here in the summer, as you can imagine.
If you need somewhere to store those vintage ales, I can store them.
Bloody hell, fire. I'll store them for you. Was I too late?
I think everyone's volunteering to look after them.
So the one on 2010 goes all the way up to 2019, which I generally tend to drink around Christmas time alongside the new one. It's really good thing to do. Very nice. Some of them are worth quite a bit of money if you look on the front. So yeah, just storage areas. The bottles are in those plastic buckets just in case I get bottle bombs. I've only had about 2 bottle bombs in the past 10 years or so. So yes, working well. It's moving around. That's our hot water cylinder for downstairs. My table with lots of bits and pieces on, not as well organised as Lee's, but all to hand. Just moving quickly around here. Right, so that's the brewery. So there's your hot liquor tank, standard plastic 30-litre bucket, which I put a sight glass in, obviously lagged. It's got a thermo well in there, which is goes directly into that ATC whatever. So I can heat the temperature up and heat the hot liquor up overnight on a timer, and it's ready for when I start brewing. And you'll see the little hose there comes down onto the mash tun. I do fly sparging. And I acquired both of these thermopots several years ago before home brewers found them quite useful and popular, and homebrew shops in particular. And I think I bought them for about £25 each. Wow. Converted them myself, drilled the holes, and yeah, they're brilliant. So this is a filled sparge arm, very old. And I've got the, as I think I showed you last time, I've got the false bottom in the bottom there, and the wort drains from the bottom. And when I'm ready to run off, I run off the right-hand tap there. The left-hand one is just for taking samples. So the right one runs down into my automated underback, which I was very pleased with. Built that a couple of years ago now. And it saves me doing what Lee does, which is transporting it manually from the mash tun to the boiler. So it runs very slowly into the underback, and you'll see 2 float switches in there. When it hits the top one, it turns the pump on and pumps the wort from the underback up into the boiler. That there is a one-way valve to stop the wort coming back out again, and it works pretty well. I was really pleased with that. It means I can sit down and do other things. My boiler or copper again has got the sight glass on it. That's really, really useful feature to have. See how much you're boiling off, how much you're filling up. And a recent addition has been this cooker hood, which I acquired from my brother. Hasn't got the elephant's trunk on it yet, because I only put that on when I'm using it. But then that extracts to a window there, which is quite neat. There's the sink, very, very useful. And a little shelf that I use for cleaning bottles and things, and my storage of bottles all underneath there. So I generally tend to collect half a dozen or so bottles at a time. And I have a solution of ready mixed anti-forming S, which is a caustic plus hypochlorite, very effective cleaning. I just let it soak in there. And so the whole rigmarole of bottle cleaning, if you do it regularly, isn't too much of a chore. Then when they're clean, they're rinsed out with hot water, and they go in those boxes under there, so I know exactly how many I've got. Counterflow work chiller works really, really well. Very pleased with that. So it comes out of the copper through the counterflow work chiller into my fermenter, which is, let's just get back here, which is a Grainfather, which I've had for about a year now. I'm very pleased with, apart from one or two modifications that I've had to make, because I thought it was a pretty poor design. So one of the modifications I've made is at the bottom here. I put a right angle onto a valve with the quick connect fittings on the end. Much easier to access samples from the fermenter, also to drop the beer through the counterflow work chiller directly into the fermenter. Another design. Yeah.
Paul, what was it before you made that that modification?
Let me show you. I've actually got on the cleaning setup for the moment, but it was. Ooh. It was sort of that and that, and the trouble with it was it sort of came down here, and it was very difficult to get a hose on or to take samples off.
Yeah.
And it wasn't easy to clean, so made that modification, which I was pretty pleased with.
Do you still have a standpipe in there?
Still have a what pipe?
Like a little standpipe in there?
Yes, I do. It's not in there at the moment because currently it's set up for cleaning. So another modification I did was put sprinklers in there.
Wow.
And I just pumped it. So instead of what I used to do when I was cleaning stuff was, if it was a 25 litre fermenter, I'd fill it up with 25 litres of cleaning solution. But because you're pumping it around, I only need about 2 cleaning solution.
Yeah.
Yes, normally there would be their own design tap which goes with a standpipe which sticks out the middle above the yeast. The other design fault, I think, was this, where the control box attaches. You've only got to touch it and it falls off. So it's not good. But overall, very, very pleased with it, except for the fact that I can't brew. The minimum quantity I can brew is 20 litres if I want full cooling. As I mentioned earlier on, I brewed a 15 litre and didn't get the cooling because it was the cooling coil is actually above the 15 litre mark.
Very difficult, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, that's it. So just around here, my grain mill.
How do you cool the Grainfather? With an ice bath or with do you have a like cold chiller?
Right. Yes. Okay. So have a look in here in this box. Is now the Grainfather sell a very nice but very expensive glycol chiller. I don't want to pay £850 for a glycol chiller, so I did a conversion of this cool box. I put basically an in and an out on either side, a little hole at one end for the pump lead to go in, and basically, yes, it's these are the insulated pipes which attach to the in and out of the cooling circuit, and basically fill it with hot water, fill those two bottles up with water, put them in the freezer, get them nice and cold, and it works pretty well. I can't get anything down near 0, but I can get it about 4 or 5 degrees, which is perfectly adequate, I think. But yeah, one day, if I win the pools or whatever, I might buy the Grainfather like old. But yeah,
I guess you missed the price of the last Lager Than Life. That was the glycol chiller there.
Was $8.50, was it? Yeah. Yeah, so that's my grain mill. I've not yet motorized it. It's the brew firm. Once I had set the rollers, I've not had to change them at all. I don't use Marisotto. If I did, I would have to reset them, because I think Marisotto is a slightly smaller grain, isn't it? So it needs a tighter crush. Just moving down. That is again for the Grainfather conical fermenter. That's a pressure transfer kit, which is really, really useful. It means I can slightly pressurize the Grainfather fermenter and transfer under pressure into whatever I want to transfer it into. Very often it's a 10-litre corny keg. And that is my old fermenter, which I've no longer got any use for, but might come in useful one day. And the rosettes that someone referred to.
Hold on, you've got your hi-fi up there as well.
Yes, that keeps me company. That's an old one. I thought rather than get rid of it, stick it up here.
Is that a tape player?
That's a beauty. It's
Yes.
Technics, isn't it? Double dip.
No,
Paul,
I got rid of that.
tell us about tapes.
Oh, it's a match.
I can't remember.
What is a tape?
No, it's not a tape. That's a CD.
I'm just joking.
Yeah. I did have a tape. I did have a tape, but yeah, no, it's good. Yeah, and that was my first competition back in. No, that wasn't my first competition. This was my first competition back in 2006. And look who the judge was.
In 1041. Oh.
Jeff Cooper.
Yeah, very good.
Yes. So that's me. That's where I brew.
Up to 1041, so that was in the 11th century, was it?
Yeah.
and these were some of the entrants. With some names on there you might recognise. Richard Burns, Phil Wilcox of the Wibblers Brewery, Mike Carter. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. There you go. Anthony Hayes, of course. Right?
Anthony Hayes, yeah.
Yes.
Oh yes.
They were good days at Richard Burns's store. So yeah, that's me. That's my brewery. As I say, not brewing now until next September, because it gets a little bit too warm up here.
What can you do about it not being so warm up there?
Install air conditioning. I did. Let's just get that back again. I have insulated it, so underneath I've half insulated it, so put insulation plasterboard, and it's been partly plastered, but I haven't done under there, so it's only partially insulated. And the window provides some sort of ventilation, but I think it gets up to about 33 degrees in here, which is why I want to move those bottles downstairs, because it ages them a little bit more quickly than I would like.
I know. Well, I'll tell you what, Paul, in a small space that you've got there, you cram a lot in, don't you?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, including
that is fantastic.
old hose hangers.
Really,
yeah, pretty good.
That's good.
Yeah.
So I get water everywhere when I'm washing stuff, and you said your bottles, you have some magic system. Like I do all my stuff outside and just make complete bloody mess. You can't be spraying water everywhere, there, can you? So how do you do your cleaning? And is your bottle thing, you clean it so well that you put it in the boxes and then it's okay, or does it squirt of sanitizer? Or yeah, that's what's surprising me.
I'll let those soak for 3 or 4 days in the Anti-Formin S, which is a caustic-based solution, and then tip it out and just rinse it with hot water. And so long as you keep on top of it, you're only doing half a dozen bottles at a time, then it's not too much of a chore. It becomes a chore if you leave it and you've got to do a whole load. And if you do it
before
like
you
that,
bottle, you just chuck some star sand in there or spray it before you bottle
and
it.
then when I'm about to bottle, I'll get the required number of bottles out, and I actually use peracetic acid as a sanitizer. I just fill them all with peracetic acid, and then off we go. Yeah.
You're using a few products that we would not normally get hold of, aren't you, Paul?
I actually bought the Anti-Formin S from, was it the Malt Miller or from Brew UK? Peracetic acid, no, I do get that from where I work, but I think you can get it.
Yeah, you can get 5 litre bottles of it off of Amazon, I think.
There you go.
Last time I checked.
It's not your usual homebrew shop types.
No.
Though, is it?
No, it's industrial. Yeah.
It is. The AMS or CRS that I use, the lactol there, so the acids down here, alkalines up there. But I got quite used to working with peracetic acid. I quite like it, as long as you're careful. The same with when you're using phosphoric or AMS, as long as you're careful with it and take all the necessary precautions, not drinking alcohol while you're using it, then it works.
I can't do that.
And therein lies the problem.
Yeah, deal breaker.
And I find one of the best times I like drinking beer is when I'm brewing, because the flavours of the beer tend to come out really, really nicely while I'm brewing. But it's not generally a done thing, is it?
Make home
Oh,
brew.
it is.
We beg to differ.
There we go.
So, Mark, so on your grain fodder fermenter, you don't have this dual valve anymore that you can take out the yeast or a sample? So you just have one valve?
I do use a dual valve, but I don't think it's a particularly good design. Why don't I think it's a good design? So you've got the stem,
Okay.
got the stem which goes there, and you're supposed to use that just to drop yeast off. And I think Grainfather recommend every 3 to 4 days. I don't think you need to drop yeast off at all. But
messy,
my issue is you can't clean in there satisfactorily, even though you might spray something into there. It never cleans properly, and there is always a risk of contamination. And when I actually disassembled it, the first time I used it, there was still yeast clogging round the back of the system. So I don't think that's a particularly good design. And yeah, that's how I modified this as well. So instead of having their system, their setup, I put a 90-degree bend on with a ball valve and a quick disconnect. Works much better for me, much better.
Paul, I might have to copy it because that annoying little spigot at the bottom of the Grainfather is just such a pain to use. But I never really thought of just putting an elbow and a ball valve.
So you've got the fermenter as well, have you?
Yeah, I've had it for about a year now. Got it last summer. And it's absolutely brilliant. But I totally agree with you on the yeast, so I don't ever dump it. Like the number of times I've done it, you end up with residue at the back.
Exactly, which is a risk.
Which is a risk, but I just like you, I don't see any point in dumping yeast. Like, why would you do that? And in terms of, you said this, you can't do less than 20 liters. I successfully chill 16-liter batches in the Grainfather. It touches the cooling jacket only by about a centimeter.
Really?
it works really well.
Okay, well, I brewed a 15-litre barley wine and wondered, it was at 24, and I wanted to get it down to about 18. Wondered why it wasn't dropping, and that's when I realised it wasn't working. So that's when I had to transfer it into a couple of other fermenters, and that's where I had the temperature control. Hence the need for a fridge.
Could you not put something heavy in the wort or the beer, sorry, and raise the water line?
Sorry, come again.
You not just put something heavy in the beer to raise the water line?
Yeah, I did think of that, but it's always going to be a risk, isn't it? If I could have filled those 2 3-litre PET bottles with water, put them in, done it that way. But it's always a risk when you put something foreign into your wort.
Also, for the cooling capacity, if you mix a saline solution into those bottles of 15% salt by weight, it drops the freezing point to around minus 20 degrees, and actually provides you, as a result, with more cooling potential. Basically, I found some graphs online and tried to plot where you would get more efficiency, because obviously a lot of the cooling potential comes from the transition point from one state into another, but also then you use more energy to cool it down to a lower temperature, and obviously not all freezers go that low, and 15% salt by weight is absolutely spot on. Like,
great suggestion. Thank you. I'll do that next time.
I have like a very small 12-litre cooler and 2 bottles, 2 litres, and for example, I'm fermenting Irish red at the moment at 18. I haven't changed them in 2 days now.
Oh, wow.
I think that might make Serge the only person who's ever made an Irish red.
I've always wanted to as well. I love it.
The only style on the BJCP that nobody ever brews.
I've made one. Not a good one, but made one.
You made one.
There's a lot of Irish breweries.
That one is red.